Have you ever heard of a thing called fluorodation? Fluorodation of water?
Yes, I have heard of that, Jack, yes. Yes.
Well, do you know what it is?
No. No.
Water fluoridation is the practice of adding fluoride compounds to the public water supplies for the purpose of reducing tooth decay. The policy, which began in the United States in the 1940s, has been hailed by the Oral Health Division of the United States Centers for Disease Control as one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. However, a growing body of science indicates that fluoridation is neither safe nor effective.
Usually when I see an advertisement, it looks more like a Dairy Queen ice cream cone. That amount is 1/4 milligram of fluoride. Well, that's the same amount of fluoride as what we find in 8 ounces of water. 1/4 milligram of fluoride, 1/4 milligram of fluoride. Don't swallow. If you do, call the Poison Control Center.
The overwhelming number of countries in the world do not fluoridate, and guess what? Their teeth are just as good, if not better, than ours.
In modern pharmacology, it's so clear that even if you have a fixed dose of a drug, the individuals respond very differently to one and the same dose. Now in this case, you have it in the water and people are drinking different amounts of water, so you have huge variations in the consumption.
You can have an athlete, a laborer, who are drinking many, many times the amount of water. You can have someone who's diabetic, who's drinking a ton of water compared to the average.
I mean, the whole name of the game in pharmacology is to deliver the right dose to the right person at the right time. And that's not what fluoridation does. It can't do it.
I would prefer an individual use approach. I would have no problem with a doctor or dentist prescribing fluoride for a patient that he was keeping in touch with and monitoring for possible side effects and for the efficacy of the drug. That's essentially what's done with any other drug, and that's the way it should be done for fluoride. We don't put other things in the water to try to keep everybody's blood pressure down or everybody's stroke risk down, and there's no reason why we should be trying a one-size-fits-all approach for this either.
All the shit you giving us is fertilizer. The seeds that you planted, you can never brutalize them. Tell the corporation you can never globalize it. Like Peter Tosh said, legalize it. Girls and boys hear the bass and the treble, rumbling the speakers in and make you wanna rebel. Throw your hands up.
In my 13 years being with city government, I've heard that issue brought up once, and it was a lady. Yeah, it was kind of a unique deal. I found it kind of interesting. I mean, I didn't question what she said, but I found it very interesting that the street that she lived on, and I want to say it was Harley Drive because I had an office on the corner of Harley in 2410 before I moved over here, and I believe it was on Harley Drive. She said that there was numerous people who were suffering from cancer, and she kept saying she thought it was from the water. Hmm. She didn't specifically say fluoride. She just said, you know, it's water. I think we have bad water.
Wow. Okay.
And that issue was brought up, and then that's where we started talking about what exactly does the city do with it. When Mark came in, or probably was Atkinson, Jerry Atkinson at the time. He says, okay, here's what we do with our water. Here's how our water is monitored. You know, we get the water from WCID. The water comes in through our system. We pump it to our people, and then we take our water and we test it. It's got to be tested, sent down the state. State studies it and tells us what's all in the water. Okay. And then they also even have a taste deal about, you know, the different tastes of the water.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
No one's watching.
If you ask most dentists and ask them what they're putting in the water, most dentists would say sodium fluoride, pharmaceutical sodium fluoride, the same stuff that is in toothpaste.
They have absolutely no idea that it's, in 9 out of 10 cases, hydrofluorosilicic acid.
And that hydrofluorosilicic acid is a waste product for the phosphate industry.
This has come about because for maybe 100 years, the phosphate fertilizer industry put out two very, very poisonous gases into the environment, hydrogen fluoride and silicon tetrafluoride. Eventually, they were required to capture those, and they did it with a wet spray, water, and that water converts these two very toxic gases into hexafluorosilicic acid. And it's this scrubbing liquor, which is about 25% strong, is put into tanker trucks, driven around the country, and added to our drinking water.
Naturally occurring fluoride in the environment should be calcium fluoride. Are you aware of what type of fluoride is coming from the trucks that bring in the fluoride?
I do not off the top of my head, other than I know it's an inorganic acid.
They come and they take. It's never enough because they can't relate to the real world. They're thinking that the Western is just for the world. They start those wars. They want to own the land, sea, and all the stars and right those wrongs. They choose your history with the bosom folk tongue. Alright, Tuesday. Hey, maybe it's the government of today. Oh, people, the big businessman. They think the old world, yeah, my follow man. And most people, they go up the bishop. Oh, A and B, he be the man in the middle of people. Discover world, we're cooking Columbus in the pipe underground. Doesn't mean I ain't gonna bite now. Just because I don't got a gun. The lyrical is heavier than lead. And this guitar is my cannon. Just like Martin and my hammer. I'm gonna love, I'm gonna over.
It's quite expensive because we had a grant for $50,000 to subsidize that system in there. So it certainly is costing money. It's costing everyone, citizens, but it's prorated among all people that use water, regardless of whether they're using fluoride water to drink or to water their grass. And that's another issue. I mean, that water, fluoride's going into the grass.
As far as fluoride, I mean, as far as everything, as far as water in general, potable water, you know, they've done studies on it. It's a very, very high percentage that people just use it for irrigational purposes.
Just
water the grass.
wasted shower and the...
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. There's always that gray area with bottled and potable water, you know.
You tell me lies, lies, lies.
Don't let that scenic logo fool you. This water is not bottled from a mountain stream. Now PepsiCo plans to spell it out for consumers, adding the words public water source to the label of its Aquafina brand. And in case you didn't know, Aquafina is actually just purified tap water.
Just because we've been doing something 50 years doesn't necessarily mean that it's right.
The evidence, he says, fluoride works better when you rub it on your teeth, not when you drink it. That fluoridation is medication added to water without your permission, and that's wrong. But most of all, because the National Research Council believes young children are getting 3 to 4 times the dose of fluoride as adults. And now the American Dental Association is telling mothers not to make baby formula with fluoridated water because of fear of dental fluorosis.
And that's big news, and that really hasn't been publicized very much.
Health researcher Dan Stockin believes that this ADA warning about baby formula and fluoride is just the beginning.
The ramifications of this are so huge, I'm sure that the state health department hasn't quite figured it out yet.
And it is that simple. I mean, there's no law. It's all voluntary, Dan, so anyone can turn on the fluoride or turn it off.
I think it's a valid point. I mean, I guess I would say more research and things of that nature need to be done to make certain. You don't see anything wrong with fluoride if you don't get too much. If you get too much, I think it's absolutely wrong. Do I know some people do have white staining on their teeth with the fluorosis?
Talk to your dentist and your healthcare provider about fluoridation. Ask them if they've seen the National Academy of Science report on fluoridation. Give them information that they may not have on water fluoridation and excess fluoride exposure.
Well, let me be now. Well, let me be harsh. I want to be free now. Free to see